Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, and I would say that this brewery is best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs, but also for their big fruity juicy sours, the Berliner Weisses, the Gozes, but yeah, I guess you can call them also modern sours and Nordic sours these days. So if those beer styles are to your taste, this is one of the Swedish breweries that I highly recommend that you check out. The stuff they're doing really is great. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases. I've heard very good things about this one, and it's also a style that I know they do very well with. So quite curious to see what it has in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get the Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing the Gothenburg beers because channel tradition and all that jazz. But for this review, we are going to return to the wonderful Duckpond Brewing. So this particular beer is called Paperhands. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is another New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokal och Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget. And I forget whether this was August or July of 2022. I've got a few beers lying around from both of those months that I'm just working my way through, so I apologise that I can't tell you exactly which one. But it was available a little bit before that on glassbanking.se, and I was told that this one is very nice. And, you know, I enjoy trying the Duckpond beers, so I felt I had to get a hold of this one. But let's crack on with it then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, link to my other reviews that I've done from Duckpond Brewing. There will no doubt be more in the future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is hugely appreciated, and you can of course check out the lists of beers from different countries. You will find this one in the Swedish playlist. But yeah, let's crack on then and talk a little bit about Duckpond Brewing, and then we can taste the beer. So Duckpond Brewing, as I've told you before, was originally known as Mikrofon Bryggeriet. Did I pronounce that correctly? Mikrofon Bryggeriet. The Microphone Brewery in English regardless. And this company is the brainchild of Nikola Sarcevich, who is a singer and songwriter for the band Millencolin, which has been making music since 1993. So the band was originally based in Örebro, and they took a break and Nikola moved over to Gothenburg. But in 2013, he began homebrewing with his friend Christian Silva while he was studying international marketing in Skövde. But the two were brewing very small 20-litre batches together, and then Nikola went down to Berlin in Germany for a 2-week brewing course, and this really kind of inspired him to sort of scale up what he was doing and, you know, take things properly seriously, I guess we could say. But the two then started the company together, and it was based for a while in Nikola's house, and at this point they were brewing 200-litre batches. But they changed their name in the summer of 2019. The main reason for that was that they felt Mikrofon Bryggeriet, the microphone brewery, was quite a difficult thing for people from abroad to spell and stuff like this, and it just wasn't such a memorable name. So they opted to go with Duckpond Brewing, which was obviously more anglicised and, you know, just a bit easier to remember. But since then, they've been increasing their output and also increasing their international sales. And in that year, 2019, they produced around 70,000 litres. But these guys are also one of the co-owners of the Wizard Brewing brand, along with Morgendagens, who are another Gothenburg-based brewery that I do recommend that you check out. They've got some awesome sour beers. But originally, they were producing most of the beer at Popels and at Odd Island, but they now also have their own premises at Kungsten, and they've just hired, I think about a year and a bit ago now, they hired Magnus Laurén as their new brewer, and they are brewing a number of beers still at Odd Island, and there is a little bit of a thing going on there, from what I understand, that they make the wort at Odd Island and then transport it to their own facility and then mature it there. So there are some kind of things going on there, but Duckpond are moving forward to get their own facility built up and doing all of this. So exciting times ahead for these guys. As of September 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, there are about 60 beers that have been released under the Duckpond Brewing name, and there were about 20 or so that were released previously under the Microphone Bryggeriet name as well. So yeah, in total about 80 beers from the entity that is Duckpond Brewing, and as I said earlier, they are best known for their New England hazies and their big fruity juicy sour beers. So do check them out. I really recommend this brewery. But that is everything I can tell you about them for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on all the usual social media, and you can check out some of the other reviews that I've done for them in the past. But yeah, let's crack on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So just a little quick look at the can before we open it up. As you can see, nice kind of minimalist artwork there. You can see the Duckpond Brewing symbol on the back. If memory serves me correctly, I paid 55 Swedish kronor for this can, so that's about €5.50, £5 sterling, maybe about $6 American, if I've got the exchange rates right. As we said earlier, an 8% New England hazy, Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA, and I do have the hops list. That is Galaxy, Victoria's Secret, and Citra. So these are all hops that we know quite well. They're all about 14% alpha acid, if memory serves me correctly. Galaxy and Victoria's Secret from Australia, Citra from America. Galaxy gives you that very big pungent passion fruit. Good little bit of pineapple as well from memory. Victoria's Secret is kind of similar in its profile, but just not quite as pungent in my experience. And then Citra we know quite well. Big juicy mango and also a bit of a kind of lemon limey zest to it. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else we need to say about this beer before we open it up. 440ml can. Let's get it out into the glass and see how we go. The Paperhands 8% ABV New England Double IPA from Duckpond Brewing. Let's do this. That's that. Yes, so there you are. Anyway, so it's kind of poured as we would expect for this style. So before the head disappears, we'll comment on that a little bit. As you can see, this beer has poured with just under a finger of a frothy, I would say, cream-coloured head. You can see there are some big bumpy bubbles there, but also a few kind of smaller ones toward the bottom. Colour-wise, I would say that this beer is a very rich, kind of mixed tropical fruit juice, this one. It's not quite as pale as you might get from mango or pineapple juice. It certainly looks a little bit more along the lines of a kind of mixed tropical juice. So yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malt that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, the length of your wort bottle is also going to play a role. Longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar's caramelised, thus you get a dark colour beer. Any barrel aging that you do or any adjuncts that you put in will affect that as well, but when it comes to New England IPAs, you don't have to care about that so much. In terms of the level of haziness that we're getting from this one is pretty damn opaque. You would expect that when it's a New England Double IPA, to be honest with you, but remember the haziness of these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and the yeast. That can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. But yeah, for an 8% New England Double IPA, this one does have a fair little bit of that going on. But yeah, it looks very, very nice, I have to say, and nothing untoward about the appearance of this beer when you consider what style it is. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one and see what we have going on here. Oh yeah. Straight away, first impression of this one is that it's a big, fresh, just juicy New England. There's a lot of tropical fruit coming out of this one, and when you consider you've got Galaxy, Victoria's Secret and Citra in there, it just makes sense. Green component is nice and zesty and grassy as well, and the malt base has a good blend of, you know, barley malt and a nice little bit of a kind of oaty creaminess as well. I really like how everything's kind of piecing together in this one. So yeah, just on the first impression of the aroma, it gets a big thumbs up from me. But let's break that down for you a wee bit more and discuss it a little bit more in depth. So if we sugar the beer up a little bit, underneath you do get a little bit of kind of fresh bread crust. I get a lot of Jacob's cream cracker out of this one. I don't know if you could say knäckebröd as well for those of you watching in Scandinavia, but for me, fresh bread crust, knäckebröd, and definitely a good little bit of a soft white bread. You get a little touch of wheat to this one, but I think the wheat takes a little bit of a back seat. There's a teeny little bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose. But yeah, for me, this is mainly it is mainly a kind of soft, bready New England IPA. As I've told you before, for me there are 6 directions a New England IPA can go. It can be more kind of yeasty and farmhousey, a little bit more kind of it can be a little bit more kind of rye leaning and grainy, wheaty and bitey, oaty, creamy, barley malt bready, or it can be a little bit more sweet. This one's got a lot of Jacob's cream cracker to it. It's got a lot of kind of barley malt bread as well, but you have got little elements of, I get more of the oats out of this the further into it that I go. And remember, the oats can be an indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. The creamier it smells, the fresher it is, but the drier it smells, the older it is. That's kind of what you'll get. But yeah, with this one, as I say, a lot of barley malt bread for me. The more that I smell of it, I start to get more and more of the kind of wheaty pungency at the back of the nose. There's a good little bit of creaminess from the oats. I get a little bit of that kind of slightly porridgey thing coming out of this one. And there is just a teeny little bit of a slightly biscuity sweetness. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of golden promise in this, because it is giving you just a little touch of that kind of butterscotchy, butter candy type thing. So yeah, aroma wise, this is pretty nice actually on the malty side of things, but quite bready and barley malt leaning from what I can gather. And I do like that slight biscuity sweetness that it has. In terms of the green component, little tiny touch of earthiness in there, nice big floral aromaticity, but you've also got that big kind of grassy, you do also have that nice big kind of grassy note to this one. And for me, the grassy elements are quite zesty actually, and that's Citra that's going to give you that. And remember, New England IPAs rely mainly on late addition and dry hopping. Early addition hopping is the one that gives you most of the bitterness, of course, within the first hour of the wort boil. That's more common in West Coast IPAs. New England IPAs use the late addition hopping within the last half hour. Gives you a little bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma. Then dry hopping is completely flavour and aroma. But for me, the green component is quite grassy and zesty, but there is a bit of floral character to back it up. All of the hops involved in this one, of course, do have the capability of giving you that big, deep, sort of spicy floral and piney resin note if you use them as early additions. But this is quite zesty and bright in terms of its green component. The fruity side of this one, though, is really interesting. I mean, for me, it really is just very, very tropical, this beer. You've got the stronger passion fruit, but it comes across as quite oily because obviously all 3 hops are contributing to this. The mango is very bright and very ripe as well, which is interesting. And I'd say it's the passion fruit and that big ripe mango that dominate the nose actually on the fruity side of things. You are getting little notes of apricot and papayas and a bit of pineapple as well. I think Victoria's Secret is the one that's more likely to give you the pineapple, because it's quite a soft pineapple in this one rather than being more oily as you would get from Galaxy. But yeah, you do get a little bit of that Citra's kind of showing its lemony limey side within this particular beer as well. But the fruity notes for me overall are quite interesting. It really has a big oily character in that sense. What I would say about this beer too is that it doesn't give you anything that you wouldn't expect from the New England IPA as a style, but it just comes across as, really well done actually. So it gets a big kind of sort of thumbs up from me. Take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, as I always say. But I think it's about time that we try this one. So yeah, this is the Paperhands, a New England hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA from Duckpond Brewing, based in Kungston, up in Gothenburg. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah. Once again from Duckpond, that is really pretty damn solid. I really enjoy these big... Duckpond just have this thing with the mouthfeel that I really enjoy. I love when it comes to these New England IPAs and the kind of modern sours, I do like the ones that just feel that little bit thicker. For me, a New England IPA should be quite thick, and Duckpond just hit the mouthfeel on the head for me. But they've always got a way of making their beers very smooth and creamy at the same time, and they just kind of mellow out and show you the fruit on the aftertaste. And you've got that going on in this one as well. I've just seen there's a big block of like sediment in this one just sitting at the bottom of the glass. I'm not sure how well you guys are going to see that there with the camera. There you can see it, but yeah, but it's all natural, it's not such a big deal. But yeah, Very nice beer, this one. Really smooth, thick and creamy. Big thumbs up from me. So, yeah, that is pretty good. I mean, as I said, the first impression of this one, it's a bit more floral in the flavour than it gives you the impression that it's going to be from the aroma. There's a good bit of grassiness in there. The green component does have a bit of pungency to it, I have to say, but you'd expect that when it's a New England double. The fruits are very tropical leaning, and the malt base is well balanced between it's actually got a bit more wheat to it, but it's really well balanced between the barley malt, the kind of bread, and the oats. Those take dominance, but yeah, there is a bit more wheat to it than you might expect. Yeah, I like this. I do like how this one goes about its business for sure. Let's try and break this down for you a wee bit more and describe it. But if you have had Duckpond New England doubles before, this one's very much in keeping with the sort of vibe that the beers give you. These big, thick, creamy things. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me. I would love to see these guys try, a West Coast IPA or something like that. I have heard that they're launching another brand to release other things through, because obviously they are known for their IPAs and their sour beers, but it'd be cool to see them do a few other styles and things, and from what I gather that is going to be released under a different brand, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, again, solid beer for me. Yeah, so in terms of the middle of your palate, then we'll just go through the beer as we always do. Backbone of the beer, you get a little bit of that typical fresh bread, white bread crust in there. This one's a wee bit more grainy than some of the other ones I've had in recent times. There are definitely elements of a Jacob's cream cracker in there, although with the graininess I would be more tempted to say that it's Knäckebröd rather than anything else. But yeah, on top of that you can feel a sort of fresh, slightly crisp white bread in there, and that's the barley malt. On top of that you get the wheat, which just thickens it all out, and that gradually gets more kind of bitey as you go back onto the back third of your palate, but we'll talk about that later. Then on top of that wheaty layer you can feel the oats in this one. Down the middle line of your tongue the oats are a bit more dense and a bit smooth and sweet. So yeah, you do get a little bit more of a kind of sweeter oaty character in the middle of your palate there, but as you move out toward the edge of and there, I should also point out as well, you do get a little bit of that more oily, porridgey character from this one. Remember, as I said earlier, the oats are usually an indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is, because the drier they get, the more dryness you get from the oats, the older your New England IPA tends to be. But you're getting quite a bit of porridgey character and a bit of an oaty creaminess from this one, but as you move further out, it certainly has a wee bit of it certainly has a little bit more of that dryness to it, which is cool. But in the dead centre of your palate, you'll feel there is a little circle there that's kind of concentrated, and you've got that more you do have that more butterscotchy, butter candy type thing coming out of this beer as well. Just, the sweetness of the alcohol and so on. But yeah, that's good. Yeah, definitely a wee bit of that more, I don't know if you could call it straight up caramel, but you definitely can feel, when this is 8%, you can definitely feel a bit of the boozy side of this beer in the centre of your palate. And as I say, when you go further out from that, when you move further and further out from the centre of your palate, you start to get the more butter candy, butterscotchy type notes, and then you get a little bit of biscuit toward the edge of the palate on this one. So this beer is, I think that's golden promise. This beer is showing you a few kind of different sides of what's going on, and I like that. So yeah, this is interesting. I think that's everything we really need to say about the middle third of the palate with this one. You might get a very slight woody flavour from this toward the front of that middle third of your palate, but again, it gets a thumbs up from me. Toward the back of the palate, then we'll go on to the back third of the palate. The border region between middle third and back third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of that bready build up there, a wee bit of graininess. But yeah, the back third of the palate is a little touch more. You've got a little bit of that more bread crusty graininess coming out of the beer. On top of that, you can feel the white bread, and that layer of almost white bread is a little bit kind of taller, which is interesting. So you can feel there's a little bit of a more grainy character to that. Then on top of all of that, you've got a more wheaty, bitey note coming out of this one. Yeah, definitely a bit more of a wheaty, bitey character coming out of this one for sure on that back third of the palate. And I think that, for me, I quite like that when it comes to New England doubles. You just get a bit more bite to the beers. You want, if you drink a double IPA, you want it just to have a bit more kind of punch to it, and this beer gives you that. But on top of that kind of wheaty bitiness, you can feel a bit more of the kind of airy, yeasty notes there. You've got a kind of more farmhousey white bready note, and it's a bit more just airy and so on. Yeah, I like how that. I do like how that goes together for sure. Yeah, this beer, it does show you a little touch of that slightly farmhousey character that you can get from some of these New England IPAs, but definitely on the back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is a little bit taller, and as you come further forward into the middle third of the tongue, it just condenses down that wee bit more, and that's nice. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer and the green component then. Back corners of the palate, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness there, but yeah, when you move further forward from that, you actually start to get quite a bright and slightly deeper floral note coming out of this one. So yeah, I like how that side of the beer goes together as well. You've got that nice deep floral thing, but at the front corners of the palate, it shows you a teeny little bit of spice and a wee bit of zestiness. Around the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and a wee bit more kind of oily and things. And yeah, I do think that goes together pretty well as well. So yeah, a wee bit of zestiness I think will be coming from the citra in the grassy component of this beer. I should point that out too. But let's focus on the front third of the palate and the more fruity side of things. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a little bit of that bready build up there, more like a kind of white bread, but the base of the front third of the palate, you get a wee touch of the bread crust underneath, and then a bit more of that smooth oaty note out of this one, and then the big oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out. That's coming out on top of that. And as I said earlier, this is a very tropical leaning New England IPA for sure. Yeah. Back of that front third of your palate, you get a good bit of big passion fruit. That's the Galaxy and the Citra, I think, that are going to give you that. What I will say about this one, Galaxy is usually very, very pungent. And I think the Citra, the Galaxy, and maybe the presence of the Victoria's Secret, when I think about Galaxy and Citra, those are quite big, punchy hops. But I think the Victoria's Secret is just kind of mellowing the other two out, actually, because the passion fruit that you get has a wee bit of pungency, but it's actually quite juicy at the same time. When you come further forward from that, you've got this big, big oily mango in it, which I quite enjoy. And then as you move further forward into the kind of front half of the front third of your palate, you start to get a juicier pineapple. There's a wee bit of a more, you get a little bit of an almost apricot-y note out of this, but as you reach the front tip of the tongue, you can detect just a little hint of an oily lime, and I think that mixes in with the sort of grassy esters on the front tip of the tongue, and I think that's Citra that is most likely to give you that out of all the hops. And it works. It just adds a wee bit more dimension to the beer. But the overall fruity character to this one is big and thick and tropical, and I really like that about this beer. It's a wee bit different to the other ones that I've had, because quite in recent times, because a lot of the other ones I've had, I've been trying to balance the more tropical side of things with something a wee bit more citrusy, like orange, tangerine, lemon, or whatever. A bit. The other ones maybe had a bit of mosaic or a bit of Azaka or Sabro or something like that. So this is quite interesting from that perspective. This one goes all out for the tropical side of things, in my opinion. But it works, and it's certainly up there with the standard beer that we expect from Duckpond Brewing. These guys set a high bar for themselves, and they always deliver, and they have here once again. Yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the flavour profile. Let's round off with the mouthfeel then. For me, mouthfeel of this one, yeah, this is quite thick actually. It's bottom end of full bodied for me. Carbonation is quite smooth. It is a big, thick, creamy sort of thing, but it does give you the impression of being quite oily at the same time. In terms of IBUs, I think this is maybe about 35 or 40. It doesn't feel overly bitter. It's certainly not the most bitter New England double 8%er that I've had. The malt base, as I say, is really smooth and creamy in this one. There's a bit more wheaty bite, but you've also got a slight degree of sweetness to it. And you've got these lovely big oily tropical fruits coming out of this one too. And I think that lingers down to aftertaste. The green component is quite bright and zesty too. So yeah, it gets a big thumbs up from me, this one, and I really like how all of that goes together. So yeah, I think this one is definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. I hope they do this again. They seem to repeat their New England doubles and New England IPAs every so often. And I think that's a good thing for Duckpond, because they've got a hell of a repertoire in there. Quite a few different beers that are very, very good. So it's good that they bring them back every so often, as well as developing new ones, rather than just doing new things all the time, actually. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about this one. So yeah, this was the Paperhands, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, if you want to call it IPA, from Duckpond Brewing in Gothenburg. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Duckpond Brewing, and you will be seeing some more sour beers from these guys over the next little while. They're releasing 3 in September, and they're all pretty highly rated, so of course I do want to check them out. But until the next time, check out my social media, check out theirs, have a taste of some of their beers, and I'll see you guys again soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.